Yeah. So hi, I'm Devadatyo and I welcome you all on the behalf of Vidyan Ecology and Natural History Foundation. We are a Mirzapur-based organization, of a small organization and completely voluntary, who has been working for conservation of forest, wildlife, and natural resources since last 10 years there. And this talk series we have just started around a couple of months ago. And the purpose of this talk series was to initiate conversation on the issues which is generally not talked about much. So generally when we talk about conservation, we are very much focused on the very scientific, very advanced kind of thing. But for conservation is actually it has to be complemented with many other things like you know awareness, consciousness, okay, tourism, everything. So it is like a holistic approach we should have. And in this series, the third series is by Mr. Bibhav Srivastav. So, who is a well-known wildlife expert, and yeah, he has he, he regularly organizes this wildlife tours for many national and international tourists. And he has more than 15 years of experience, both as a researcher, conservationist, and also like as a tourism expert. And he has been working with many famous wildlife lodges and tourism companies. And he has been also associated with institutes like Wildlife Institute of India, Banas University, and various other forest departments. So before I move to Vibhav, I just want to make a quick comment like on the tourism and why this talk is important. See, if you see the term tourism, it has evolved around the nature. So initially, people like used to visit those places. They used to like these places of scenic beauty, and it is perhaps one of the oldest and very few sectors which is very closely linked with the health of the ecosystem. But we all know that human beings have a tendency to exploit every opportunity, and we have seen how tourism can also cause more harm than good for the local environment. So ecotourism is quite recently, but more or less you can say like a modern term, which can be seen as a more sustainable approach to tourism. It's like more like being responsible towards the nature and respecting the carrying capacity, all those kind of things. And but ecotourism has an immense impact on people's perspective. For example, people who are living around forest or wildlife, instead of cutting trees or involving other activities like mining and everything, they can so over the period of time they will have ownership towards the forest. And because it also gives them economic benefit, so it also works like more like a positive feedback for conservation. And also the people who are going to visit those places, so they are not only enjoying the place as a vacation, but also they have a learning experience to learning to respect the nature and all those things. So without wasting much time, so I will move to Vibhav, who is expert in himself. And so I will request all of you to please mute yourself, and we will have enough time to discuss. So after his presentation, feel free to ask questions. Yeah, thank you. Over to you, Vibhav.
Thank you, Devadityo, and thank you, Vindhan Ecology and Natural History Foundation, for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts, share my experience, and to learn from you. And I'll share my thoughts about the wildlife tourism, what I have learned in 15 years. So I would like to share my screen. I'm not taking much
So
time. And yeah.
like there is a background noise from your side.
Okay, just 1 minute. Yeah, it's okay now.
Yeah, much better.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. So I would like to start from my presentation. This is about the role of ecotourism in conservation. Actually, this is very controversial topic, and just why it is not from yes. Okay, so tourism has a role in conservation, and it has many role to for the conservation, especially for the monetary benefit or revenue earnings by the forest department and other people. But yeah, of course, if it is not handled properly, and then it's not good for wildlife conservation, protected area, or what are the natural settings where the tourism has been organized, is not good. So actually, that is the only way to earn money without using wildlife or without consuming wildlife or nature. So this first screen you can see, it's a squirrel called giant squirrel, and it is found in central India, northeast India, and in South India. And because mostly when we talk about the tourism or ecotourism in India, we don't only face we have only tigers as a face. So here I would like to I like to share these small creatures are also equally important for the tourism point of view, because I have traveled with many clients, many tourists from the foreign countries, and they are getting excited after seeing these small creatures, as means even same excitement they'll get like tigers. So yeah,
Vaibhav, can you put this PPT on the slide mode?
okay.
Okay.
Is it on slide mode?
No, no. It is right now. It is just a window.
Okay.
It's okay if it is a problematic. You can just continue. I think it's fine. We can read.
Yeah. Okay. So, so before starting, we have to understand what is ecotourism. So, according to Oxford Dictionary, that tourism directed towards exotic, often threatened, natural environments intended to support conservation efforts and wildlife. So mostly all of the ecotourism is actually operated in the natural setting. Like we cannot do the ecotourism in city, in traffic, or in other city crowded places of cities. So another definition by Cambridge University dictionary, that the business of organizing holidays to places of natural beauty in a way that helps local people and does not damage the environment. So actually, that the main aim of the ecotourism is to respect nature without damaging, visit, enjoy, and then support the local people. And that is not only with the ecotourism, this is with every kind of tourism. Wherever you go, either it is heritage or historical, or wherever you go, it is you have to respect the places, you have to respect the fort palaces wherever you visit, and you have to support local people. So that is a kind of that makes a balance. Then what is sustainable tourism? So sustainability is in a simple way, we can define that if a forest have a tiger and 50 deers, and tiger, that tiger, they prey on the deers. So he will not kill all the deers at a time. He will kill whenever he required. So that is called the sustainability, because tiger gives the deers all the deers time to regenerate or make the balance of their population. So that's same with the all things where we talk about the sustainability. So sustainable tourism is that tourism that takes full account of its current and future economic, social and environmental impacts, addressing the needs of visitors, the sector, the environment, and host communities. So if means if we have to sustain the tourism in that particular area, we have to respect. Even I had experience when we uh, have a tiger sighting. Like I would like to share, once we were having a tiger sighting, and there was a tigress and her cubs, very I can say 6 7 months old cubs. So some of the cubs, one cub was very shy. So he was actually avoiding tourists. So everybody trying to see. Then a guide from my jeep, I told him, and he even he understand that that there is a problem with cub. So he said that you people have to see tiger today, but we have to show tiger every day. So we have to respect them. If we don't respect, they will get disturbed. They don't come in front of the tourist vehicle. So this kind of sustainability in the mind, we have to keep every time when we go to the natural places. So actually what happened that we have to achieve a sustainable development goals. Everybody knows that during the 17th session of United Nations General Assembly, where 154 heads of states, they have decided, they have adopted a agenda by 2020.
Vibhav, sorry to
Sorry.
interrupt.
Yeah.
I think your like slides are not like moving. It's still on the first slide.
Okay. I don't know what happened. Just
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, sorry.
just 1 minute. Uh,
Yeah, it's fine now. It's third slide now.
okay. Uh, just 1 minute. Correct. You can see third slide.
Yes, we can see.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. So according to that sustainable development goal, as or in short we call it SDGs. So SDGs are adopted by 154 head of states, and they have signed that by 2030 they achieve these goals. And these goals, these are 17 in numbers. So some of these goals can be achieved when we operate ecotourism in a sustainable way. So like if we talk about the target 13.3, it says that improve education, awareness raising, and human and institutional capacity on climate change mitigation, adaptation, impact reduction, and early warning. So what we see, if we operate a good practice wildlife tourism, so we should inform visitors about the threats to wildlife. Whenever we go, or whenever they come in a resort, or whenever they visit any hotel, homestay, whatever. So we always discuss with them what are the problem, and they like to learn. They every tourist like to learn, and what are the threats to wildlife. And also we can explain the climate change, because people who are living there from long time, like 15-20 years, and they are running their business, they can clearly see the impact of climate change. And also they can actually explain things much better than the others, outsiders. So they'll get educated about the climate change. They will get educated about the threat to the wildlife, nature, conservation, everything. So that is a kind of this target can be achieved by this way. And the next target is 14.7. By 2030, increase the economic benefits to small island developing states and least developed countries from the sustainable use of marine resources, including through sustainable management of fisheries, aquaculture, and tourism. So in this, this all is this statement itself has said that tourism, because sustainable management of the fisheries and aquaculture or marine resources can be achieved by the sustainable tourism. Like coastal and maritime tourism, they actually rely on the healthy marine ecosystem, and tourism development must be a part of integrated coastal zone management. And in order to help conserve and preserve fragile ecosystem, marine ecosystem. So it actually increased the blue economy, and practices like we can actually contribute, actually tourism can contribute to the sustainable use of marine resources, like uh, coral reefs. People go for diving and to see coral reefs. Next target is take urgent and significant action to reduce the degradation of natural habitats, halt the loss of biodiversity, and by 2020 protect and prevent the extinction of threatened species. That 2020 is already half has been more than half has been passed. So I don't know how much we have achieved, but of course this target is actually that can be achieved by tourism when it provides support for endangered species by providing education for local people and providing funding for species, because whenever people go to the forest, they have to enter into the forest by paying some amount, and that is the revenue generation for the forest department, which they can use for different purpose. They can use it for the research purpose, they can use it for the conservation, breeding, or relocation, reintroduction. These are the things they can do by these funds. Can you see my next slide?
We can't see your next slide. No. We are still at 3.
Yeah, every time I have to
Maybe
yeah.
you have to put this on like slide mode. There will, in the bottom, there will be a 4th icon.
Okay.
In the bottom right, there will be 4th icon.
Okay.
Slide.
Actually, that MS Team is.
No. In a PPT only, you have to just keep.
Okay.
Make it on the slide mode. Yeah. It's fine. It's fine. We can see.
Yeah. Okay. So can you see my 4th slide?
No. It is still at slide number 2.
Okay. Now I think you can see it. Now you can see.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So next target is target 15.c. It says that enhance global support for efforts to combat poaching. Poaching is actually that one of the biggest threat to the wildlife, and trafficking of protected species. I think most of you know about what this word actually means. Trafficking of protected species. That means poached animals are body parts of the animals, wildlife is transported to the another country or wherever there is a demand for them by illegal means. So that trafficking of protected species by increasing the capacity of local communities to pursue sustainable livelihood opportunities. So again, this can be achieved by the tourism, because tourism can play a major role if sustainability managed in fragile zones, not only in conserving and preserving biodiversity, but also in generating revenue. As I said earlier, that it can generate revenue as an alternative livelihood to local communities. Next is enhance the global partnership for sustainable development, complemented by multi-stakeholder partnerships that mobilize and share knowledge, expertise, technology, and financial resources to support the achievement of the sustainable development goals in all countries, in particular developing countries. So due to its cross-sectoral nature, tourism actually can strengthen private-public partnership, which I explain in coming slides. And you can see that example of that private-public partnership, and engage multiple stakeholders like international, national, regional, and local to work together to achieve the SDGs like Sustainable Development Goals and other common goals. So this is about the ecotourism and sustainable development goals, which we can achieve by if we operate ecotourism in a proper manner, in a controlled manner, and in sustainable way. Now let's talk about the conservation model in India and protected area. In India, we have a conservation model, which is we have protected areas like national parks, tiger reserves, wildlife sanctuaries. So what happened is most of the traditional conservation efforts are typically designed to exclude human residents. We don't consider human as a part of the.
We are still at slide number 4. Yeah.
I think I have to escape every time, then I have to come back. Okay. Yeah. Now you can see.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So most of the traditional conservation efforts are typically designed to exclude human residents, and they have often failed to actively involve group of people living within or near protected areas. Like say for example, if you are living close to a forest and you are dependent on forest for many of or your, all of your activities, and you are actually do all the resources collection in a sustainable way, and suddenly few people from the government side, they come and they said that no, this forest is now out of bound for you, you cannot go inside, and this is now a government property. So that actually create a kind of negative sense, negative feeling about the protected area and wildlife. So this kind of conservation model is actually is not successful. I cannot say that it is not successful everywhere, but it is not successful at some places. So even in some places in India, that these national parks or protected areas, they are not working on a core and buffer model, and there are villages inside the core as per the rule that there should not be a village inside the core zone of a national park, but there are villages in the core zone of a national park, and they are actually supporting the wildlife and conservation things. So this failure to consider the interest of local communities has resulted in a general lack of support for conservation and subsequent degradation of protected areas. So if people are not getting support for not giving support for conservation, of course they will try to do the activities which is not in favor of the protected area. So now that by this way, a new term comes in the mind that is called community-based ecotourism. Community-based ecotourism is actually a form of community-based natural resource management, which is a popular choice of activities in an enterprise-based strategy for biodiversity conservation and a common element in integrated conservation and development projects. So actually community-based ecotourism, what is community-based? That the ownership is with community, because most of the ecotourism operations actually benefit local communities, but the amount of benefit they are supposed to get from the tourism, they are not getting. So that's why that community-based ecotourism concept started, and many organization, many tourism organization, tourism corporates, they are working in support of this initiative. And like most ecotourism operations also claim to benefit local communities either through employment or by contributing to community projects. This you can see whenever you go to the any lodge, anywhere, any lodge, any resort near the wildlife or nature reserves or bird sanctuary, wherever you will see most of the local people, they are employed by the these lodge resort owners, and the even those guides who are taking you inside, they are from the local community. But the term community based in CBET implies going beyond this to involving communities actively. This has been interpreted as anything from regular consultation. That means a kind of ownership, a sense of ownership they should have. These communities, these local people, they should have a kind sense of ownership. It is not like somebody from the city has gone there and he started running a lodge, and then people started working there, and then it is like a kind of they feel like a kind of colonization, or they feel a kind of intrusion into their cultural life or in their culture. So of course, most of the lodges, they do not do that, like things like this. But I have seen some of the lodges, they actually, they don't uh, they they just see ecotourism as an opportunity to collect money. But actually, that ecotourism is not only collect money, it is your passion inside. If you have a passion for wildlife, then only you can go there and survive. So this has been interpreted as anything from regular consultations to ensuring that at least some community members participate in tourism related economic activities, to partial or full community ownership of whole ecotourism enterprises. So there are places where you can see a shop is owned by owner, a tourist shop is owned by local people, and there are places where you can see a kind of cafe, someone is running a cafe, is owned by local people, and a kind of homestay is the best example of community based ecotourism. Now, CBET, community-based ecotourism, has become a popular tool for biodiversity conservation, based on the principle that biodiversity must pay for itself by generating economic benefits for the local community. Ecotourism and local guardianship of natural resources. Researchers, there are many researchers has been done in India and on in other countries also, especially in Africa, Australia. So researchers suggest that by creating economic incentive for the local villagers, ecotourism can encourage local guardianship of biological resources and assist in improving surrounding environmental conditions. Another one study by Mr. Kobinha in Ghana, Africa, revealed that locals' positive attitude towards conservation are influenced by accruing socio-economic benefits. Of course, if somebody is getting socio-economic benefits from any enterprises, they have a positive attitude for that thing. So in terms of employment, income, and involvement in natural resource management, and suggest that raising their knowledge of the environmental benefits can increase local support for conservation. According to Mr. Bongchuk, that to increase the effectiveness of conservation programs in biologically important region by promoting private sector and community-based natural resource
So,
conservation.
so Vibhav, we are still at slide number 6. Sorry to interrupt. Yeah.
I don't know why it is happening.
Maybe you can restart the PPT. Maybe some problem. I don't know.
So, like ecotourism and wildlife tourism is we consider as conservation tool. So there are some organizations which are actively involved in either they are getting support from wildlife tourism or they are giving support to wildlife tourism. So if we talk about this Wild Otters is actually organization which is active in Goa, and they work on otters and they provide a kind of homestay to the tourists, and they in turn these tourists they work for their projects like a volunteers. Another organization is Singinawa Conservation Foundation. Singinawa is a lodge in Kanha National Park, and they are doing very wonderful work with the local communities, and they are quite active in like tribal art thing. So they have started a kind of museum for tribal art. Another organization, Tiger Watch, basically it is an organization which works for the illegal wildlife poaching, against the illegal wildlife poaching. But most of the fundings they are getting from the tourism enterprises or the local people. Wildlife Conservation Trust, they also support in a indirect way to the tourism. TOFT is an organization totally devoted for the tourism thing. This is the travel operators for tigers. This is UK-based organization run by Mr. Julian Matthews, and they actually give a rating, pug mark rating they call it, to the wildlife lodges. Initially, they started with only tiger reserves, but now they give all these lodges wherever, like for the there is a lodge in Snow Leopard, or there is a lodge in Gir National Park. So they give a Pugmark rating according to their practices, how responsible practices they are doing. Another organization, this is actually an initiative by the government forest department, Bhoor Singh. Bhoor Singh is a mascot for the Kanha Tiger Reserve, and they have started a school in Kanha Tiger Reserve, which is getting support from the tourism industry, totally supported by the tourism industry. And I can say I live in Delhi, and I have seen Delhi schools. Can say that their standard, though it is not, I think it's only till third standard or fourth standard, but that I can say that it is equal to the standard of Delhi school. They have very good teachers. Most of the teachers are from or are the either wives of the people, naturalists, or people who are working in the lodge. So they all are educated, very well educated. Dhonk, another organization that gets support from the tourism industry. Dhonk actually is the sister organization of Tiger Watch, and it is run by Divya Khandal, and she actually rehabilitated Mogia communities. Mogia communities are considered as the community which involved in large scale of poaching of tiger and other wildlife, body parts of the other wildlife. So to rehabilitate them, she started Dhonk, and this kind of enterprises she started where they can make the local art, and tourists from different companies, from different resorts, they visit, and they actually buy those things, and that is then they get the support from the tourism industry. Corbett Foundation is another organization which is getting support from the tourism industry. They have the same owner have the Infinity Resorts, which they have in Kanha, Bandhavgarh, and in Kaziranga. So in Corbett also. So this Corbett Foundation, actually what they do, they have their health system, mostly for the villagers. So they have a van where they have all these kind of testing equipments, and they go to the to different villages, and they start health camps for them. Another thing they do is they actually train people for tourism industry. So they do a kind of training like hospitality industry, like housekeeping and uh, other department of hospitality industry, front office, housekeeping, and cooking, and they'll get absorbed by the other lodges. Wildlife SOS, they are quite active in field of rescuing animals, and they have rescued all the dancing bears, and they have rescued most of the elephants, circus elephants, as well as temple elephants who are in the bad condition with their owners. And they have a program, volunteer program they run, and people go and can do a volunteer activity with them, volunteer activity, and you have to pay for that, and you'll get a kind of certificate or whatever. Then ERDS Foundation, it's a kind of organization which operates in Desert National Park, and though it's the symbol has Chinkara, but actually they are more active in the conservation of Great Indian Bustard. And this organization has trained with the help and support from Forest Department, has trained people for for the conservation and for the guiding bird for birding as a bird guide. WWF also support tourism uh, uh, kind of training they provide, or other things they provide for the tourism industry, wildlife tourism. Wildlife Trust of India, they have started a kind of homestay for different regions with the support of communities. Yeah. Next slide, please. Devaditya, can you move to the next slide? Yes. So wildlife tourism nowadays is not only is going to the park, going inside the gypsy, or doing bird watching. You can do a volunteers, and these are the real pictures I have taken with the foreign clients. Here you can say these people are actually involved in painting the wall of a school, a local school in the village of Kana, and in that painting that is quite attractive for the students, and it gives a kind of message to the student. Here they are involved in interacting with the kids and the local people. You can see this is the Wildlife SOS, and he's the owner of the Wildlife SOS, Mr. Karthik. And next slide, please. Devaditya, can you move to next slide? Yeah. I think you missed one slide. There are two slides in for volunteers. Yeah. Okay. So people can involve in plantation of the native trees in either in the resort or in that is a kind of habitat improvement for the birds and other animals. And also they can do camera trap with the lodge or local support. Here is the bear rescue center. People are making the something for the bears, and here elephant rescue center. And even nowadays you can do a kind of walk local with the local guide inside the buffer zone. Buffer zone, some parts of buffer zone which is identified by the forest department are open for the kind of nature walk. And in that nature walk you might get to see animals, of course, and you otherwise you mostly you'll get the pug marks when you go early in the morning. So mostly these animals, they move in the night, so you can see the pug marks of the animals. Next slide, please. Okay, so now examples. If we talk about the CBET in India, so we have to take some examples of CBET in India. So we have a first example which is in Sikkim. This is called Kanchenjunga Conservation Committee, and it was formed in 1996. And they actually started because they have seen that the industry tourism industry was creating a kind of garbage and everything, means that was not a kind of responsible tourism practices was operated in that place. So now they started the KCC, and they are involved in promotion of community-based tourism to provide sustainable employment opportunities and revenue to local community members. It also integrated with education institutes to collaborate with teachers and students to impart conservation education across Sikkim. The committee also oversees development programs in the state of Sikkim. Next slide of next slide, please. Another example is Hemis. Actually, that most of the homestays started in Himalayan region. So Hemis is Hemis National Park, Hemis Monastery. You must know about this. So Hemis is a place where people generally go to see snow leopards, but there are chances you can see other animals also. So, Dr. Ashwar Maheshwari and Dr. S. Satyakumar, they have surveyed 85 households in 17 villages, and what they found that 64% of the villagers have positive attitude towards snow leopards, and that is because of the ecotourism. Because generally they had before that they had conflict with the snow leopard, and what they do, snow leopard, they come to their livestock shelter, and they kill their livestock. And sometimes it is actually documented that in a one go, I think a snow leopard has killed 50 goats, and he has to eat only one, but why he killed, nobody understands. So the ecotourism based annual income of the resident of Hemis National Park constituting about 54% of the total income. So now there, which was in 2005, 2006, this study has done in 2016 or 15. So this so that was that 54% was in 2015, and 36% in 2005 and 2006. Nowadays, many people, they come to see a snow leopard, and they always prefer home stay. And fortunately, there are home stays are available uh, inside the national park, Hemis National Park. No other facilities. Either you have to carry your camping equipments, or you have to stay in home stay. Next slide, please. Another example of CBET is in Binsar Wildlife Sanctuary. Binsar Wildlife Sanctuary is situated in Uttarakhand, and it is very famous for the birding. And in Kumaon Himalayas, Kumaon region, it is situated, and it has very good habitat for different kinds of Himalayan birds. So it has actually, that sanctuary has 5 villages and homestay. Out of 8 homestay, they have, these 3 are private and 5 are run by private public partnership. So that is the thing I wanted to share, that private public partnership. And this private is a travel industry, someone from travel industry, this Village Way Company. The name of the company is Village Way Company, and they what they did, they have not started the homestay in their home, like in the villagers' home. They have started a separate. They have created a separate home, and they have given training to different people from different house. Generally, in Himalayan region, most of the villages are have very few houses. So they have given training, and now people are running these homestay, and they are actually getting support from different travel industries. Next slide. Another example, if you know about the Amur falcon, that was the in year 2012, it was noticed that around 10,000, 12,000 Amur falcons are killed. They are actually a migratory bird, and they have a stopover in Nagaland, in Doyang, near Doyang Reservoir in Wokha district of Nagaland, and thousands of birds has been killed for illegal wildlife trade. So some organization, some local organization, wildlife conservation organization, forest department, and Conservation International, they all started working towards the betterment of for the protection of this Amur falcons. And they have seen that thing next year. No killing has been recorded. And this is just only by creating awareness and alternative livelihood, which is in the form of ecotourism. So now that Nagaland and even in Assam, in Karbi Anglong, they started a kind of festival for Amur falcons. Another one is CBT in Eagle Nest Wildlife Sanctuary. Those who are into the birds, they must have know that that this place is known for a bird which has been recently discovered, and that is the only bird discovered after independence. That is called Bugun leochichla. It was discovered in year 2006 and discovered by Mr. Raman Atreya. And it's a small sanctuary, but they have wonderful diversity of birds, more than 450 species of birds, and it is said that this is the second in number of birds in the world. Number of species of bird, and that community and this bird, especially this Bugun leochichla, is found only in the community land. It is not found in the sanctuary. It is found near the community land in the Bugun community, and that's why the name has been given Bugun leochichla. And they are very happy that mostly people who discovered a kind that species, or wherever, if you know about the nomenclature uh, in our scientific zoological or botanical nomenclature. So generally we do, the people give names like if somebody have discovered, so they have given their name. But here the name has been taken from the local community on where it is found. So they have a kind of setup you can see here, because it has rainy, it is very rainy area. It has heavy rains, so that's why it is all covered with plastic sheets. And they have set up the camp, llama camp, and so actually, it is one of the few successful community-based ecotourism programs in the entire country, where conservation of wild habitats and economic development of resident communities go hand in hand. And you know that only very few numbers of this bird, I think it's 14 or 15 number of birds are spotted till now. Next slide, please. Another Thekadi Tiger Trail in Periyar. Periyar is a tiger reserve. So many people who were involved in poaching, mainly of tuskers, because tusker poaching was very common in South India. So many people who were involved in poaching of elephants and other wild animals now are a trained, experienced guide. Of course, they know a forest much better than us or anyone else. So just the forest department, what they did, they have used their knowledge in a positive way, and now they are happy. They are earning money from the tourism, and they can live a respectable life. Next slide, please. Now, because this this talk has been organized by Vindhyan Ecology and Natural History Foundation, and because I worked in this area and I live close to this area, I would like to share about the opportunities of CBET in Vindhyan landscape of Uttar Pradesh. So actually that Vindhyan landscape which is found in Uttar Pradesh is called Kaimur Hills. And Kaimur Hills actually started from Bihar and till Jabalpur. So in Uttar Pradesh, the Kaimur landscape, the Kaimur Hills, is only one wildlife division covers, I think, five or six wildlife sanctuaries, and these are the so these are the opportunities we can. Somebody have raised hand. Okay, so this wildlife tourism opportunity, if we have to explore, there are Chandraprabha Wildlife Sanctuary, which is one of the oldest wildlife sanctuary of India, and it has mention of it is mentioned in book of E.P. Gee. If you know about Mr. E.P. Gee, he was a naturalist, British naturalist, and one species of monkey, langur, has been given his name because he actually discovered that species of langur in northeast India. So Chandprabha Wildlife Sanctuary, and it is famous for another reason. There was in 60s, somewhere early 60s, that lion has been relocated to this park, and they they survived for few years, but later they disappeared, and there is no record where they have gone. So actually, this is connected with the Camur Wildlife Sanctuary of Bihar. So people think that they have gone to Camur Wildlife Sanctuary in Bihar, and somehow poachers have managed to kill them. So anyway, next is Camur Wildlife Sanctuary, which is a very big sanctuary and very famous for its uh, what we call it, uh, black buck, black buck population. If you wanted to see black buck, you must go Camur Wildlife Sanctuary and you'll see that. There is another wildlife sanctuary, Ranipur Wildlife Sanctuary, which is going to be proposed as a tiger reserve because there is a plan for forest department of MP and Uttar Pradesh that they connect these wildlife sanctuary. They actually try to connect these this wildlife sanctuary with Panna Tiger Reserve. I don't know how functional the corridor between them, but because that some area of the Panna Tiger Reserve is going to be submerged with Ken Betwa river interlinking project, so that is a kind of compensation they are providing in terms of a satellite core of Panna Tiger Reserve. So of course, Ranipur Wildlife Sanctuary, they have tigers, they have sloth bears, other animal species. Next is Mahavir Swami Wildlife Sanctuary. This is in Camur Wildlife Division. Mahavir Swami and Vijay Sagar Bird Sanctuary is only the IBN sites, the birding sites, good birding sites. And Vijay Sagar Bird Sanctuary is actually quite famous for migratory birds. Mahavir Swami Wildlife Sanctuary is famous for actually it is a Vindhyan landscape, so they have a kind of escarpment or high hills where these vultures can make their nest. So if this is Mahavir Swami is actually famous for vultures population. Next is nature-based tourism. We can, there are many waterfalls. I don't have count, but I can say that more than 10, 12 waterfalls are very good. So, and there are reservoirs, big reservoirs, even if you know that the Govind Vallabh Pant reservoir or Rihand Dam, we call it there. There are tribal communities, almost similar tribal communities which lives in Chota Nagpur Plateau and which lives in Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh. They have same culture, they have same language, but yeah, of course, there is a touch of Bhojpuri. Then it's adventure tourism because of the reservoir, water sports can be operated, mountain biking like cycling can do in a sustainable manner, hiking, trekking, rock climbing, these activities can be explored. Uh, there is historical and archaeological places in natural settings also like rock paintings. Rock paintings are mostly prehistoric and there are prehistoric sites and forts. There are forts, if you know about the Chandrakanta novel. So many forts mentioned in that novel is actually from these areas. Another is Salkhan Fossil Park. Next slide, please. Devaditya, can you move to next slide?
It's already the next slide. Is it not visible?
No, it's not visible.
Oh yeah, just a minute. Can you see it now?
No.
No, we are still seeing Indian landscape, Uttar Pradesh.
Maybe I have to reshare it then. Just a minute. Some problem today with Teams. I don't know why it is
I
happening.
think, yeah.
It never happened before.
I know, I know.
Is it now visible?
Yes.
Okay.
So this is the wildlife you can find in Ranipur Wildlife Sanctuary. These photographs are actually are representative purpose. These are not the actual photographs from Ranipur Wildlife Sanctuary. These are photographs I have taken in different tiger reserves and parks. Next. Chandprabha Wildlife Sanctuary. There are sloth bears, leopard, chinkara, and there are wonderful birds in that park also. Next, please. That Kamur Wildlife Sanctuary, you can see that the photograph at the end, this is the landscape of Kamur Wildlife Sanctuary. And this photograph I have taken, I think, 14 years back. And this was with my normal roll camera. So they were very far, but wonderful sighting. Crocodiles are very common in this landscape. Hyenas are there, and not only in national parks, they are not restricted to national parks. I can say that black buck is restricted to sanctuary, but hyenas, crocodiles, they are found everywhere in this landscape. Then there are waterfalls. You can see most of the waterfalls are cascade waterfalls, and they are very beautiful mostly in monsoon. You can see uh, full flow of the water. So these are the wonderful places in this landscape. Here you can see the first slide is I just forget the name. The second one is the Siddhanath Ki Dari, where the water goes down, and when you there is a steps. There are steps if you wanted to go down, and you'll see a temple, and then you can go down and you can see that kind of pond where all the water collects and then it goes. And this place near Siddhanath Ki Dari, there are bears, sloth bears. And this one is the fourth one is the Rajdari, which is in Chandprabha Wildlife Sanctuary, and the third one is the Devdari, and that is the same. This Rajdari goes to the Devdari. Next slide. There are other. This Mukha waterfall is in Kamur Wildlife Sanctuary. Sirsi waterfall, Lakhania Dari, and Chuna Dari. So they are wonderful waterfalls, beautiful waterfalls in this landscape. There are reservoirs in this landscape, and means if you see, you can see large expanse of water. Okay, so this is the Salkhan Fossil Park, and Salkhan Fossil Park is very important thing in this area. It is a geological heritage, and scientists estimate that the fossil in this park is actually are actually 1500 million years old, and they date back to Proteoric, Proterozoic era period. Sorry. And scientists also claim that this park is much older and much bigger. I think uh, thrice larger than the Yellowstone National Parks in United States. And these fossils, you can see, it's like a ring. It's like a ring, and it is totally neglected. Unfortunately, it is totally neglected. Even when I went there in 2006, there was nobody to guide you where to go, and that there was no gate, and so these this people are actually people actually collect things from here. Local people, they go and collect things from here. That is not good. And these fossils are actually, they are the algal fossils, and it is called algal stromatolites, when that area was under the sea uh, uh, before the formation of all these continents. So this should has this part. This is a part of Camboor Wildlife Sanctuary, and it is under the Forest Department. So this has to be protected. Next slide, please. Rock paintings. More than 250 rock paintings has been reported from this area. More than 250, and that is more than the number of rock paintings in the World Heritage Site we have in near Bhopal. What it called? Bhimbetka. Bhimbetka rock shelters. So actually, and there are rock paintings. Those are more than 4,000, 5,000 years old. They are prehistoric rock paintings, and it's, and very few people know that the first rock painting in whole world was reported from this area, from Mirzapur. The first rock painting was reported from Mirzapur, and it was reported in some Sohagi hill. And if you type it on Google, you'll not find. There is, even I asked several people where that hill is located. Nobody says. Nobody has given satisfactory answer. Next slide. There are historical sites. This is, you can see, first one, and the fourth one is Chunar Fort, and it has a long history. And the second one is the something has written in Brahmi script, which is in Durga temple. If you remember Chandrakanta, so that this Durga temple has mentioned in Chandrakanta also. And this is one of very old temple, and it was believed when because all the rocks, all the sandstone rocks was collected from Chunar for Ashokan pillars, has been collected from here only. So when they have actually those workers, they use this place to make the things on rocks, like to create something in their script, or to create some kind of design. Whatever they have done on the rock edicts, they have done here. This is the kind of this is the place where Ashokan pillar has been found near Aurora and Chunar. Next, please. So that is the end of my slides, and I request all of you to stay home, stay safe until unless you have very urgent work to go out, and avoid social gathering, and stay home. Next, please. Next slide, please. Okay. So thank you. So you can ask questions if you have any. Dr. Abdul Hamid is asking, I think so.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Can you hear me? Is it audible?
Yes, I can hear you.
Good evening. It's a wonderful presentation with a lot of examples.
Thank you.
I'm from Kerala.
Okay.
Tourism promoting high degree of conservation. But
Sorry?
can you ignore the negative aspects of ecotourism? Then, what about the eco-development scheme, which is very effective in Periyar Tiger Reserve? I'm from Kerala. Moreover, my wildlife research, my PhD is from Kerala, Periyar Tiger Reserve.
Okay.
Then what about the involvement of tribal people for the conservation, and also the community reserve content?
Okay.
For promoting conservation.
Okay. So as I said in my, actually I have not done a thorough research on the Periyar Tiger Reserve, There are some research papers available on the internet, and you can go through those research papers. But of course, wherever you have a ecotourism facility, you can support wildlife by different ways. And I take example for lodge, which is in Panna Tiger Reserve, and it is run by Dr. Raghu Chandawar. So first thing what he has done is very low impact lodge. They don't have any impact on the. They don't have any air conditioning. They don't have so many rooms. So always go for low impact. Employ local people, and of course, being an outsider, you can do only these kind of things, to go there and employ local people, create awareness, and you can make some kind of activities where people can go to the local villages, local schools, where people can interact with the kids, and even they can distribute something to these local schools, so that kids are benefit. I don't like to distribute individually, because it actually create a kind of uh, negative impact, I can say. That because once I was just walking near Ranthambore Tiger Reserve, and I was having binocular and hat, covering my head with hat, and local kids, they thought that I'm some foreigner guy, and they started asking me about money and everything. So giving individually, you can give to the enterprises, you can give to the organization, you can give to the schools. That is the kind of support you can do. And eco development activities, you have to check. I don't know exactly what eco development activities are running there in Periyar Tiger Reserve.
Okay, thank you, Arvind.
Well,
Yeah, any more questions?
Hello,
we
good
were-
evening, sir.
good
Hello,
evening.
sir. Am I audible?
Yes, I can hear you.
Sir, I just had a general query in my mind that we can start ecotourism only at the primary level or individually. So, is there any incentives provided to the individuals to promote ecotourism?
Yes, different governments actually they provide, and you can ask for loan. You can, means most of the ecotourism activities where people started, even a big lodge, without support from the government, they cannot start. So you can ask, you can go and propose your whatever you have in mind. It should be a kind of yeah, uh, kind of which is focused more on the conservation, or community based, community oriented, so that you'll get support from the government. And of course, different governments, forest department, they have fund for that.
Yes,
And
sir.
that comes under eco development projects, and different Campa funds are there, so they can use it, of course.
Okay, sir. Thank you. It was a wonderful presentation and also
Thank
so
you.
informative. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
So we have, before we move to next question, I have one question.
Yeah.
Just I want to know that, see, ecotourism is a very wonderful idea, and it has a huge potential.
Yeah.
Especially in the areas, because see, in India, only 5% of the area is under like protected area network, sanctuaries,
Yeah.
national park, and out of rest of the like 15% of the area, which is forest cover, there is a forest, and they had good wildlife and all this thing.
Of course, yeah.
So do you have any idea, like is there any policy, national level policy or something, which actually promotes ecotourism? Like, that is fine, departments and they promote, but is there any like any policy or some like decision taken by central government or state governments to promote ecotourism? Like we have like different like Project Dolphin, Project Tiger, this kind of things are there. So
Yeah,
means,
of course. Every government, they have their own ecotourism policy, and they have like in Uttar Pradesh, I think it's a corporation, ecotourism development corporation. in Madhya Pradesh, they have a very good organization based, like they have, it is under forest department, but they actually work with the tourism department of the and in Madhya Pradesh, if you go somewhere, you can see some of their lodges are very close to the reserve forest, or not only protected areas, they have their lodges close to the reserve forest also. And in some parts of, I think in Chhattisgarh, I'm not sure about that. So yes, and if you remember that there was a petition filed in 2013 against the tourism in tiger reserves, in core zone of the tiger reserve. So the forest department, Supreme Court has said that you should start protecting the buffer zone, then you can move the tourism to the buffer zone. So now I can say that in Kanha Tiger Reserve, in Bandhavgarh Tiger Reserve, in other all in tiger reserves of central India, I have seen people go to buffer zone and they have very good sighting. But the thing is that whenever they go into these places, first in that particular time, we have a kind of control of movement of local people. Because if local people go on movement, when local people go out, you will not see any wildlife or any bird life. So of course, there are policies, and it's a wonderful, even government of forest department will be happy to actually have tourism facilities more towards the reserve forest or other category of protected forests than national parks and wildlife sanctuaries, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So can you guys please mute yourself? Who is not speaking? Some noise is there. So Bihar, I have one more question.
Yeah.
I'll go into other people also. So
Yes.
to this only. If
Yeah.
someone wants to do like some ecotourism initiative in any place, so
Yeah.
like what kind of permissions they require, and from whom? Like, is there any requirement of such permissions?
If the first thing, if people wanted, if they are local, they like someone is wanted to start in their own land, so they have to take permission. If it is close to the reserve forest, or it falls under the reserve forest, they have to take permission from the forest department. They have to take permission from the tourism department also. And that's all. And other kind of permissions, local from the local offices, local institutions, they have to ask for the permissions. But yeah, of course, it is, if it is on a forest land, or there are villages inside the forest, reserve forest, whatever kind category of forest, they need a permission from forest department. Otherwise, they don't need a permission from forest department. Anyone can go and open a lodge near Kanha Tiger Reserve, if it is not. So that is why now the tourism has been given a name, rowdy tourism. Yeah. So
Thank you,
yeah.
thank you. Yeah, I understood. So any more questions? People, please feel free to ask. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Hello.
Yeah.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Thank you, Vibha, sir. Nice presentation.
Welcome.
And how do you see the ecotourism in this COVID scenario, its growth, and how you see means in perspective that will people be coming? Hello.
Yes. So actually, that if I talk about the this COVID environment and COVID scenario, and if I talk about the prospects of ecotourism, then I can say ecotourism is on the higher side, because you can make social distancing better in ecotourism projects, not in the city. Like if you wanted to make social distance in Taj Mahal or in Red Fort, it's quite challenging. But in a national park, when you go in a jeep, you can make social distance easily, because you have to keep distance between two jeeps. You can go with your family members. You can stay in your room. You can like it's not a mass tourism. If ecotourism, if we talk about ecotourism, mostly it is not a mass tourism. So if there is not mass tourism, social distancing is quite easy. Even there was an article few days back about that the opportunity of ecotourism after COVID-19 scenario. So of course, social distancing is easily possible in ecotourism, and people are getting attracted towards the ecotourism in the coming days. And even I'm getting calls from people that when we should start going to visit parks.
Vibhav, I have a question.
Yeah, please.
Vibhav,
Yes, please.
I have a question like talking specific to Vindhya range of forest area.
Yes.
There is so much of degraded forest which is not at all considered to be a forest, but it is degraded by the community around that area. Does the forest department give that land for rehabilitation of the forest or some activity that can be done in symbiotic like ecotourism and development of the degraded forest? Does the government have any policy of that kind of giving out some specific land on lease or something?
I don't know about any policy, but it is a wonderful idea if we can propose that thing, because most of the, of course, you are right. There are forest, most of the forests are degraded, and there are even large scale stone mining from that area. Even I have seen there, they have erased whole hills. There are many hills has been erased by stone quarrying. So yes, this is a wonderful idea. This we can propose. If you want, you can propose, and I'm sure that people from forest department and ecotourism department, they give some actually thought on that.
Okay, so for Kaimur area, for this Vindhyan area, we have to go to Ramnagar Forest Department.
No, actually, that the Kaimur Wildlife Division has office in Mirzapur, and the Chandprabha Wildlife Sanctuary has office in Ramnagar. That is Kashi Wildlife Division, Kashi Vanyajeev Prabhag. Yeah.
Hello, Vibhav.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Gary.
Yeah, it's Paul from the UK. I enjoyed your
Hi,
talk.
Paul.
I missed a little bit at the start, but it's great to see you talking about these issues. Really important. You're a great guide, so I hope you're going to get lots of work. As you say, it's a really important field. My only concern about ecotourism is it's a great name. It sounds good, encouraging, but how do you maintain the standards that people are genuinely, offering ecotourism and not just using this name to attract regular tourists without actually being committed to the principles of ecotourism? Is there any body in India that monitors, and awards maybe certificates or things like that to guarantee that tourists can have this genuine eco-tourist experience?
Yeah, unfortunately, it is not there, because as you see, if you have visited India many times, so as you see that there are mushrooming of lodges everywhere, and there is no control on these. Only what we can do, we can make them aware. We can create awareness in those people, because as I said that lodges are people consider these national parks, wildlife sanctuaries, or any ecotourism destination as a place where they can go and earn money.
Yeah.
And yeah, so but that is not true actually. You have to work hard to get anything in return. Even when I was working in Kanha Tiger Reserve with my lodge, they in 4-5 years, whatever they invested, they have not got it back. So actually, it is a kind of passion, and when you go with passion, you listen to nature, you listen to the forest department, you listen to organization, everything. So only what we can do, we can some organization, I request those organization to work with forest department and local other local people and go and give them a kind of sensitization awareness classes where people get sensitized about the where, because they are living just close to a sensitive place, and there are different issues like if sometimes I'll share with you that report where these lodges, they come in between the corridor connecting different national parks. So these things, forest department, because they don't have control over that land, so they cannot control these lodges to be built. So of course that is kind of necessary things, necessary action we need for these lodges. Ecotourism, and I can say these lodges are not actually performing ecotourism. They are just doing a kind of earning money, nothing else.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
I
do you
hope, yeah.
feel that India, that there's a need? I know you have some existing environmental organizations, but to have some kind of collaboration between the environmental organizations and the tourism organizations to support, the ecotourism?
Yes, there are organizations working, as I said that in my report, in my presentation, I have showed you some organization, those who are working in the field of wildlife tourism and creating awareness, creating kind of certification like TOFT. As I said, that TOFT is an international organization. It is based in UK. And
Maybe I missed, what does that stand for, the organization? I missed a little at the start.
Okay. TOFT is Travel Operators for Tigers.
Okay, great. Yeah.
So it is run by
run
by Julian Matthews, and everybody who has done some kind of ecotourism, means all the travel industry people, those who are into the ecotourism, and all the lodge people who are into the ecotourism, they are member of the TOFT, and they get a kind of certification which is called PUG ratings. So those who have very responsible practices, they has been given a very good PUG rating. Yeah,
that's
and
good.
apart from that, apart from that, there is a Ecotourism Society of India, so they also do all these things. So yeah, of course, organizations are. Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much, and best of luck.
Thank you, Paul.
So Vibhav, we are running out of time already. So we can take just two questions. Before that, there is one question on chat. Okay, so some feedback he has asked that I have my own doubts regarding ecotourism. Are we not further burdening sensitive ecological places in the name of ecotourism? In absence of proper and effective management, ecotourism will be a disaster in the long run. What is your thoughts?
Yes, exactly. If as I said, I repeated this every time that many people just think that ecotourism, whenever they can start something, some kind of lodge to start earning money. And I met many people like these. And recently, I'm not taking his name, that recently I met people, he said that I'm going to make a lodge where I can earn 20,000, 30,000 per night per room. So I said, why you are thinking of that? So people generally, and if you go to the these national parks or wildlife reserves, you might see some lodges. They have a kind of, even in near Pench Tiger Reserve, when you go, you will see a water park. What is the need of water park in that area? I don't understand, and how it is permitted.
So there's a one raised hand by Mansi Pathak. So Mansi, you want to ask something?
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir. Sir, I'm from Varanasi and my name is Meghna. I just have a simple question that with the rise and increase of the human population, how are you going to conserve this ecosystem in further future, as the human population is increasing day by day, so the use of soil, water and degradation of plants and trees are also increasing. So how are you going to conserve the flora and fauna in the upcoming future? What is the government policies regarding it?
First of all, sorry, your name is Meghna.
Yes, sir. My name is Meghna.
Yeah. First of all, I would like to say, Meghna, that I am not only going to conserve it, you also going to conserve it. So
Yes,
we
sir.
have to
I
conserve.
mean,
Yeah, yeah.
we have to conserve,
Yeah,
but
we have to
basically,
conserve.
I want
Yeah.
to know the government policies regarding it from you.
Government policies, actually that problem is that there are different departments. There is a wildlife department, there is a tourism department, there is a some other department. So everybody work in their own departments and they don't have a kind of interaction. So of course population is a big challenge, and it is not only for natural resources, it is challenge for everywhere, everything. So all the resources are depleting because of the even I'm living in Delhi. I am also from Varanasi. I'm living in Delhi, and I know that in winters we cannot even breathe properly in Delhi. So these are the problems. It has to be solved by everybody, and it is like it is our own sense about this. Like I stop using plastic things. So it is our own sense. You aware people about the increasing population whenever, wherever you go. I just create an example that I don't use plastic water bottle. So somebody has said, just for example, I was traveling with a guide in Jaipur, and I was carrying my steel water bottle, and he said that it is possible for you, but not for us. Then I said that if it is possible for me, then it is possible for everybody. So just it is our duty to educate, aware, because being a citizen, what we can do, that is only matters. So we can do whatever is in our hand, or we can, like here we raise hand, we can raise hand, we can raise our voices, and of course we can make a better future for nature and wildlife in India.
So we have two more questions, okay, and
Yeah,
after that
yeah.
we will close this call.
Okay.
So first question is from Dr. Abdul Hamid. He's asking, what are the major strategies mentioned in guidelines for ecotourism in and around protected areas published by Ministry of Environment and Forest? So would you like to
Yeah.
respond to this? Yeah.
Yes. Actually, that there are guidelines, and there are guidelines for different things, like not only about the how tourism is managed, but there are carrying capacity for every parks, how many jeeps can go, not more than that jeep, how much area of the park is open for tourists, not all the area of the park, and but of course these guidelines are missing something. Like for example, I was always telling to the lodges that don't use exotic varieties of the trees or plants. They can escape into the forest. They can escape, and even if you use botany student can understand composite family or Asteraceae family, so they can easily escape into the any habitat, or grasses, they can easily escape into the any habitat. So there are guidelines. If you go on the websites, you can learn from and even they have the NTCA also have guideline, National Tiger Conservation Authority. They have guideline for tourism in tiger reserves. But of course, we have to think about, and we have to suggest things. We have to propose this that this is this kind of things should be. We have to open our eyes.
Yeah. So we have the one last question.
Yes.
From Anjali Singh, she is asking, what is the potential of ecotourism in Chunar or Mirzapur region, and what can be done in order to protect the natural heritage of this region?
Yes, I shared my slide. Last slide, you must have seen that there are forts, and so these forts, rock paintings, these inscriptions, Ashoka rocks, and whatever those things are under the tourism department. So there is potential. Just for everything, we need a marketing. If we market these things, we market tiger only. So people come here in India to see tigers. If we started marketing about the other animals, they come. Even if just few days before, I read a research paper that says that in top 5 wildlife destination, there is no big cat. In top 5 wildlife destination of the world, there is no big cat. So people are going to see other animals also. But what we do, we only sell tiger. So if we started marketing about the Chunar Fort, if we started like I studied and I read about this place, Durga temple, that these the workers who were working on the Ashoka edicts, that they were staying there, and they were making all these Ashoka pillars in that place. So of course there are things, but as I said that 250 rock paintings more than Bhimbetka, but Bhimbetka has got the World Heritage Site, but in Mirzapur people hardly know about the rock paintings. So yes, of course, it's the not only government, it's local people and people like us. We can market, and we have a kind of thing which is like social media. So if we market properly through social media, people come and visit these places.
Yeah. Thank you, Vibhav. So I want to add to this to Anjali's point, because we are working in Mirzapur, so we realize that there is very less documentation of the natural biodiversity and the sites. I think we are the only organization which has actually documented the wildlife. Before that, no one knew that what kind of animals are there. And this one baby step we have taken, we have tried to engage with the government, because see, what we realized in the UP especially, I don't know about other states, it is understaffed. And especially Mirzapur is one of the largest like reserve forest division in UP, and it is severely understaffed. And they don't have time to go to the forest and document all this thing. We have tried to convince the government to propose 3 forest ranges as a conservation reserve. Okay, so this is also in the step. So I think you are right, Vibhav, that people have to come forward. So in UP, in Mirzapur, I have seen like people who are living in Mirzapur, they themselves don't know what is like,
Exactly.
I know people who are in city and who never visited any single waterfall in this district. Okay, so in the whole life they have stayed in the city only. They have never ventured out. So this is actually the problem of nature, is you have to go to near to the nature, and only then you will love nature, and only then you will care for the nature. So this is the basic problem. And thank you very much for your talk. It is very informing, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And a lot of things, because see, when we study in textbooks and articles, it is very bookish knowledge. And when we hear from the experts like you who have significant experience in the field, so it brings a perspective. Okay, so we understand the problems and how on ground things are. So and this is the purpose of the talk. We want to listen more people like you. And in our next talk, we are inviting a young researcher who is completing his PhD on dolphins in Ganga. So, so in next talk around 4th or 5th September, we will be organizing this talk. And every one of you, thank you very much. And who have opted for our email subscription, we will also send you update about the future talks. And once again, Vibhav, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, please take care. With this, I just close this call. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.